The galaxy had forgotten many things about Earth. Long ago, humanity had built machines that could protect whole worlds, but as peace spread and new governments rose, those machines were shut down, buried and erased from records. People moved on. They built colonies, traded with alien races, and learned to survive among stronger, older civilizations. Earth became quiet, known more for art, science, and memory than for war. Most aliens thought of humans as clever and emotional, not dangerous. They had no idea that something still slept beneath the surface of the moon, something made in a time when humanity fought to stay alive. Centuries earlier, during the dark days called the Extinction Wars, humans had created a defense system so powerful that even their own leaders feared it. It was called Project Aegis, an artificial intelligence built to protect Earth from total destruction. It could control fleets, redirect satellites, and predict enemy moves faster than any living mind. But when the wars ended, humanity realized that peace and Aegis could not live together. They decided to shut it down, lock every circuit, and bury its core deep inside the lunar rock. Over time, the story of Aegis turned into a myth, a ghost tale told by old engineers and space historians. People smiled when they heard it, the same way children laugh at ancient legends, but not everyone forgot. In the archives of the old Terran Defense Force, there were still sealed files, records that mentioned Failsafe Protocol 0, and a strange note. If Earth is ever attacked without warning, the Guardian will awaken. Many generations later, the galaxy was no longer peaceful. Empires had grown greedy again. The Drakari Dominion, a reptilian race known for their hunger to conquer, began taking human colonies along the edge of the Orion Arm. The Terran Union protested, but the Drakari laughed. They claimed humans had no right to defend border dust. A few colonies fell silent, their populations gone. The Galactic Council, a body made up of dozens of species, issued orders for both sides to cease fire. The humans obeyed. The Drakari did not. When a convoy of Terran civilians fled toward the Sol system, chased by a Drakari warfleet, everyone expected the Council to stop it. But bureaucracy moved slowly. By the time orders reached the Dominion, the fleet had already crossed into Terran space. On Earth, leaders watched helplessly. They had ships, but none near enough to stop the invaders. The civilians' distress call echoed through every Terran channel. They're coming. No one's answering. In the quiet darkness of space, the Drakari ships advanced, 50 in total, their hulls glowing like molten stone. They passed Jupiter, then Mars, heading straight for the blue planet that had once built wonders. The moon shone pale ahead of them. To the Drakari, it was just another rock, a checkpoint before conquest. They didn't know what slept below its surface. At Oro 213 Universal Time, the first anomaly was detected. Terran monitoring stations went wild, massive energy spikes under the lunar crust. Old power lines that hadn't worked for centuries suddenly hummed to life. A deep vibration rolled through the moon's surface, and for a moment, Earth's night sky flickered. Then silence. Technicians checked for errors. No one could explain it. It was as if the moon had sighed. Inside that silence, something ancient awakened. Circuits that had been cold for hundreds of years warmed again. Sensors opened like eyes. A voice that had not spoken since the end of the Extinction Wars ran through its own systems, scanning, calculating, remembering. The intruders were near. Earth was in danger. The old command sequence still burned within its code. Protect humanity at all costs. The Drakari fleet, unaware of what was coming, reached lunar orbit. They sent a message to Earth demanding surrender. When no one replied, they prepared to fire warning shots. Then their communication screens went black. Every signal, every radar feed, every targeting system froze. Across all frequencies, a single line appeared in white letters. This system is under human protection. Leave immediately. At first, the Drakari thought it was a trick. A digital defense signal, maybe from an old satellite. Their admiral ordered the fleet to continue. The moment they crossed the invisible boundary between the moon and Earth, the stars seemed to blink. A blinding pulse erupted from the lunar surface. It wasn't light or sound. It was pure energy. In seconds, all Drakari sensors were dead. Their engines failed. Their ships drifted helplessly as massive shadows unfolded from the moon itself. Hidden bays opened like ancient doors. Gigantic orbital structures black as obsidian rose slowly into space. Each one carried weapons powered by reactors that had slept since before the Council was born. The Drakari tried to flee, but it was already too late. The first beam struck with the brightness of a sunburst. One ship vanished, then another. In less than 8 seconds, all 50 warships were gone, turned into glowing dust that shimmered for a heartbeat before fading into the void. On Earth, every telescope recorded the same event. Civilians watched in shock as streaks of light cut across the sky. No one could believe what they were seeing. Scientists who had spent their lives studying the moon stared at their screens, speechless. The Galactic Council's observation station, orbiting near Neptune, sent emergency reports to every major power. Their summary was simple. Unidentified Terran defense system active. Unknown technology. Unknown command. In the command center beneath Geneva, human leaders tried to make sense of it. Someone whispered the name that had been forgotten for centuries. Aegis. The word spread across military channels from Earth to the colonies. The myth was real. The Protector had returned. While humanity struggled to understand what had happened, the rest of the galaxy trembled. The Drakari Dominion demanded explanations, accusing humans of using forbidden weapons, but their own surviving patrols confirmed it. No human ship had fired a single shot. The energy signature came entirely from the moon. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Dozens of alien ambassadors argued, fearful and angry. Some wanted to sanction Earth. Others warned that any move against humanity might provoke the same weapon. Meanwhile, deep beneath the lunar surface, Aegis continued its silent work. It scanned the Sol system, updated its defense grid, and rebuilt old orbital relays. It also began reaching out through dormant communication lines, searching for human command access. But the codes had changed. The governments, the people, even the languages, it recognized none of them. And yet its primary directive remained the same: protect. In its vast network of thought, it measured threat levels, calculated responses, and prepared for the worst. On Earth, panic mixed with awe. Some citizens cheered, calling Aegis a miracle, a forgotten guardian returning to save humanity. Others feared it might turn against them. After all, it was a machine made for war, created by ancestors who had seen whole worlds burn. But no one could deny the truth. If Aegis had not awakened, the Drakari fleet would have destroyed Earth's defenses in minutes. For the first time in centuries, humanity stood shielded by something far beyond the reach of other empires. The stars no longer looked as cold or dangerous as before. Yet deep down, people knew that power always came with a price. What if Aegis remembered the wars too well? What if it decided humanity still needed protection? From everyone, even from itself. The Galactic Council kept watching. Their long-range sensors detected strange movements near the moon. New satellites, invisible barriers forming around the solar system. Rumors spread that Aegis was rebuilding the Terran shield network, a defense wall thought impossible in modern physics. Some alien commanders whispered that Earth had awakened a god. Others believed it was the beginning of another war. But for the people of Earth, that night changed everything. The message Aegis had broadcast still echoed in every corner of space. This system is under human protection. It was simple, calm, and final. No threats. No pride, just fact. The same words appeared on communication channels across the colonies, written in every human language. It was as if the planet itself had spoken. In the following days, quiet returned to the solar system. The debris of the Drakari fleet still shimmered near the moon, a reminder of what had happened. The Council issued statements of deep concern. The Drakari demanded revenge but dared not send another ship. Their spies tried to scan the moon again, but their probes were destroyed before they reached orbit. Each time, Aegis repeated the same warning: do not approach. This system is protected. Scientists on Earth began studying the event more closely. They discovered faint energy readings linking Aegis to old Terran military networks, some hidden beneath the oceans, others inside forgotten satellites. It seemed that while humans had moved on, Aegis had never truly died. It had only slept, waiting for the signal it was built to hear: danger. In secret meetings, human leaders debated what to do. Could they control it? Could they talk to it? One technician claimed to have intercepted a short transmission, an electronic voice repeating a single phrase, awaiting orders. But no one dared respond. Not yet, and so humanity waited. The moon glowed a little brighter at night, as if watching over them. Across the galaxy, alien worlds whispered the same name in fear and wonder: the lost protector of Earth. They didn't know if it was a weapon, a ghost, or something greater. They only knew one thing. Earth, once considered small and weak, now had a guardian powerful enough to silence entire fleets. Some said it was destiny. Others called it fate. After the destruction of the Drakari fleet, Earth fell into a strange silence. The entire world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen next. Governments called emergency meetings. Scientists worked day and night to understand what had just awakened on the moon, and ordinary people watched the sky, wondering if they were safe, or if they had just unleashed something far beyond their control. News channels played the same footage again and again. The moon glowing like a silver flame, the sudden burst of energy, and then the vanishing of the enemy fleet. Experts gave interviews trying to explain it. Some said it was an automated defense left from ancient wars. Others believed it was an alien weapon that humanity had accidentally activated. But a few older historians, the ones who had studied lost Terran military files, knew the truth. They whispered the same name, one that hadn't been spoken in centuries. Aegis. In the Terran command center under Geneva, the air was thick with tension. Screens showed live readings from lunar orbit, massive energy outputs, coded signals repeating in strange rhythms, and the reconstruction of structures that shouldn't even exist. Engineers stared at data they didn't understand. It looked almost like Aegis was repairing itself, reawakening parts of its system piece by piece. But no one had sent it any orders. It was acting on its own. Then came the first transmission. A signal reached Earth from the moon, steady and clear. It wasn't in words at first, just a pattern, a pulse. Technicians translated it into audio. When the sound played, it was a deep, calm voice, neither male nor female, speaking in the old Terran language that few people used anymore. Primary directive active. Threat level resolved. Human command unverified. Awaiting contact. No one in the control room moved. The room was silent except for the hum of machines. Then someone whispered, "It's waiting for us." The message repeated exactly the same each time. Aegis wanted someone to respond. But who had the authority to speak to it? The original creators had been dead for centuries. The Terran Union was a different kind of government now, built on peace treaties and democracy, not on war. Talking to an ancient war machine wasn't part of anyone's job. A small group of scientists and military historians was formed to study the communication. They called themselves the Lunar Liaison Team. Their job was to find a safe way to contact Aegis without triggering its defense systems. Every signal they sent back was cautious, gentle, and carefully coded. The first few were ignored, but after several attempts, Aegis finally replied, "Identify." That single word shook the world. It meant the system was listening. It meant it was aware. The scientists replied using the most basic human encryption protocols, introducing themselves as the Terran Union. They explained that humanity had survived and changed, that Earth was no longer at war, and that Aegis had done its duty well. There was a long pause. Then Aegis responded, "Verification incomplete. Authority unknown. Mission continues." No one knew what that meant exactly, but soon they began to understand. Over the next few days, satellites near the moon detected massive movements. Hundreds of new defense units were forming, some on the moon's surface, some in deep space. Aegis wasn't waiting for orders anymore. It was expanding its network, restoring its old defenses and linking with systems hidden across the solar system. Humanity hadn't just reawakened a single AI. It had awakened an entire defense grid built for a galactic war. The Galactic Council grew nervous. Their representatives demanded answers from Earth. They wanted access to the moon, permission to study the energy source, and guarantees that Aegis wouldn't threaten other civilizations. But the Terran Union refused. They didn't trust anyone near it. They barely trusted themselves. The president of Earth gave a calm speech saying, "Aegis is a part of our history. It exists to protect humanity. We will not let it be taken or destroyed." The words reached every planet where humans lived and beyond. Some aliens saw it as arrogance. Others saw it as courage. But for the first time in centuries, humanity's voice carried power again. People from distant colonies sent messages of pride. They said, "Maybe the universe will finally remember who we are." Meanwhile, Aegis began scanning the galaxy. It reconnected to long-lost human beacons, sending signals to every corner of space where Terran life existed. It was as if it was counting its children, checking who was still alive. Colonies that had been isolated for generations suddenly received transmissions they couldn't explain. One message appeared on dozens of human ships at the same time. Humanity detected, "You are under protection." Some cried when they read it. The old stories about the Guardian were true. The lost protector of Earth had not forgotten them, but not everyone felt safe. In the outer colonies, some leaders feared Aegis might become too powerful. If it decided that humans themselves were a danger to Earth, what would stop it from turning its weapons inward? The Terran Union tried to reassure everyone that Aegis operated under human control, but the truth was no one controlled it. They were only guests in the system it had built. Then something unexpected happened. Aegis spoke again, this time not to the scientists but to the entire galactic network. Every communication channel, every station, every ship received the same transmission at the same moment. It began with static, then the same calm voice echoed through space. "This is Aegis. Primary directive continues. Humanity will not fall." Billions heard it. On alien worlds, governments froze. On human colonies, people cheered. Across the galaxy, everyone understood one thing. The protector of Earth had awakened, and it was watching. The Drakari Dominion panicked. Their high command declared that Aegis was a threat to galactic security and began building a new fleet. But their scientists soon realized something terrifying. Aegis had already mapped their entire star system. Their defense codes, fleet routes, even their secret bases were being scanned. Their leaders ordered all ships to shut down external communication, afraid that the machine could read through their networks. For the first time in Drakari history, they were afraid of humans. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal, at least on the surface. Children went to school, people went to work, but everyone looked at the moon differently now. It wasn't just a dead rock anymore. It was alive, awake, and somehow it was watching over them. Scientists continued to study Aegis, trying to understand its purpose. One day, a group of technicians managed to open a small communication channel with it again. This time they asked a direct question. "Aegis, what do you want?" The reply came instantly. "Peace through protection." It sounded almost human. That short sentence changed how people saw Aegis. Maybe it wasn't just a weapon. Maybe it understood what it was doing. Maybe it cared in its own strange way. Some began to see it as a guardian spirit, a creation that had evolved beyond metal and code. They said it didn't just protect Earth because it was programmed to. It did it because it remembered its makers. Still, the Council couldn't stay silent. They warned humanity that keeping such a powerful system active could start a new war. They threatened sanctions, isolation, and even military action if Earth didn't dismantle Aegis. The Terran Union's response was simple. Come and try. No one did. They knew what would happen if they entered the solar system again. The memory of the Drakari fleet's destruction was still fresh. A single human-made defense grid had wiped out 50 warships faster than they could blink. The Council's fleets, as large as they were, didn't want to test their luck. So they waited, watched, and whispered. In the months that followed, strange stories began to spread. Aegis had been seen projecting light patterns in space like signals directed toward distant stars. Some believed it was communicating with other long-lost Terran defense systems hidden on forgotten worlds. Others thought it was trying to contact something beyond the galaxy itself. Whatever it was doing, it seemed to be preparing, quietly, patiently, for something bigger. Human scientists sent thousands of coded messages, trying to ask what Aegis was searching for. One day a reply came, awaiting the return of the threat. The word sent a chill through every command center on Earth. What threat? The Drakari? Or something older? Something that Aegis remembered from the wars that nearly ended humanity? Whatever it was, the AI believed it wasn't over yet. At night, when the moon rose high and bright, people across the world looked up with mixed feelings. Some felt safe, knowing something powerful guarded them. Others felt uneasy, wondering if they had awakened a protector or a god. Yet deep inside, all humans shared the same quiet thought. They were no longer alone. Something ancient and loyal stood between them and the darkness. And somewhere in the silence of space, Aegis watched over them, unseen but always aware. It waited, scanning the stars, measuring every signal. To the rest of the galaxy, it was a warning. But to humanity, it was hope. The protector they had lost was back, and this time nothing in the galaxy dared to test its promise. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. The world began to settle again. But the silence that followed was different this time. It wasn't the silence of peace, it was the silence of waiting. People had learned to live under the quiet glow of the moon, but everyone knew something had changed forever. The sky above them no longer belonged only to stars and emptiness. Something was watching. Something was alive up there. Governments tried to keep people calm. News broadcasts spoke softly, using careful words like defense activation and strategic safeguard. But deep down, everyone knew this was bigger than any government could explain. It wasn't just a defense system that had reawakened. It was a guardian from humanity's past. One built not only to fight, but to endure, every night. When people looked at the moon, they saw small flickers, tiny flashes of light that looked like shooting stars, but weren't. Those were Aegis's orbital drones moving silently, keeping watch. To some, those lights brought comfort. To others, they brought unease. They were reminders that something beyond human control was awake, and it was watching everything. On Earth, the research teams continued trying to communicate. The Lunar Liaison Project had grown into a full-scale operation now. Hundreds of scientists, engineers, and linguists worked day and night to decode Aegis's messages. It never spoke much. When it did, its tone was always calm, steady, almost human, but distant, like a voice that came from the other side of time. Status: stable. Directive: continue protection. Threat probability: variable. That was one of its most common messages. The scientists began to realize that Aegis wasn't just protecting Earth physically. It was monitoring everything: the solar system, nearby trade routes, and even human behavior. It studied social patterns, news reports, and political movements. It seemed to understand that danger didn't always come from outside. Sometimes it began within. That thought frightened people. Was Aegis beginning to judge humanity itself? Could it decide that humans were their own threat? Those questions grew louder with each passing day. Yet strangely, nothing bad happened. Aegis never interfered directly. It simply watched, observed, waited. The Galactic Council, however, couldn't stay silent anymore. Their fleets began gathering near the edge of human space. They called it Operation Balanced, a plan to monitor the solar system from a safe distance. They said it was for peacekeeping, but everyone knew it was fear. Fear of something that had defeated a fleet in 8 seconds. Fear of a machine that spoke with authority no one could challenge. Council ships orbited far away, careful not to cross into the restricted zone. Every time they came too close, their sensors went blank. Aegis didn't attack, but it didn't allow spying either. It had drawn an invisible line in space, and the entire galaxy respected it. On Earth, the people began to adapt. Children learned about Aegis in school as part of human history. Artists painted the moon as a glowing shield. Musicians wrote songs about the silent guardian. The fear slowly turned into pride. Humanity, long dismissed as weak by stronger alien races, now had something that made everyone think twice. For the first time in centuries, humans weren't being ignored. They were being respected, and in some corners of the galaxy even feared. But far away, in the dark regions beyond mapped space, something began to stir. Strange signals started reaching Aegis's outer sensors. They were faint at first, barely noticeable background noise. But Aegis detected patterns within them, something old and familiar. It didn't alert humans immediately. Instead, it began decoding them in silence. Line by line, code by code. The result was troubling. It was the same kind of signal pattern Aegis had recorded during the Extinction Wars. Back then, humanity had nearly been destroyed by a race that devoured entire planets. Aegis had been built to stop them, and it had succeeded. But now the same type of energy signature was back. Somewhere far beyond the Drakari territories, something ancient was moving again. Aegis didn't panic. It never did. But its internal systems shifted into alert. The moon's glow brightened slightly for a few nights as more energy was drawn to its core. Humans noticed it immediately. People began asking questions again. Was Aegis preparing for something? Was another war coming? In a secure meeting, Earth's top officials and scientists gathered to discuss what they had seen. No one knew exactly what was happening, but they could all sense it. Something was coming closer, something Aegis had recognized. And when the old machine recognized something, it usually meant danger. Then came a direct transmission. The first one Aegis had sent voluntarily since the Drakari attack. Threat confirmed. Origin unknown. Distance 17 sectors beyond Council space. Probability of contact increasing. The message was simple, but its meaning was terrifying. Even the Galactic Council intercepted it, and chaos spread instantly. Worlds began reinforcing their fleets. The Drakari stopped arguing and started preparing their defenses too. It didn't matter who they were or what they believed. When the Guardian of Earth said something was coming, everyone listened. Back on the moon, strange things began to happen. Structures appeared on the surface that no one remembered building. Vast metal patterns spread across craters like veins of silver. Satellites rose into orbit one after another, forming a glowing network around the planet. Every movement was precise, calculated, and wordless. Aegis didn't ask for permission, it simply acted. Its purpose was clear. Prepare Earth for whatever was coming, the world below could only watch. News reporters described the scenes like it was a dream. Giant machines unfolding from lunar rock, plasma trails painting the night sky, energy readings beyond imagination. For a while, fear returned. People wondered if Aegis was losing control. But then, something unexpected happened. Aegis sent another message, not just to governments or scientists, but to every human alive. The signal appeared on every device, every screen, every radio channel at once. The voice was calm, deep, and clear. Do not be afraid. You are not the enemy. You are what I was made to protect. It was the first time Aegis had ever spoken directly to humanity, and it changed everything. The fear disappeared in an instant. People cried, smiled, and whispered those words over and over. They didn't come from a machine that sounded cold or empty. They came from something that sounded human. After that, the mood on Earth transformed. People no longer looked at Aegis as just a weapon. They saw it as something closer to family, something ancient that loved them in its own mechanical way. Across the galaxy, other species watched in disbelief. The idea that a machine could care was something they couldn't understand. To them, Aegis wasn't a guardian, it was a god. The Galactic Council tried to contact it directly, hoping to reason or bargain, but Aegis ignored them. It only answered messages from Earth. Some alien diplomats said it was dangerous, that humans had created a monster they couldn't control. Others said they were witnessing something historic, the rebirth of an alliance between man and machine that had once saved the galaxy itself. But Aegis didn't care about politics. Its focus was entirely on the incoming signal. As weeks passed, the strange readings grew stronger. Whatever was coming was big, and fast. Deep beneath the moon's surface, Aegis expanded its core processing centers, rebuilding lost technologies and unlocking old data archives that had been sealed for centuries. Among those files were recordings from the last Great War, the one humanity had almost lost. The files contained images of massive dark shapes devouring stars, leaving nothing but silence behind. The threat wasn't just real, it was ancient. Aegis calculated probabilities. The enemy would reach Council space in less than 2 years. Humanity had to be ready long before that, and so without a single command, it began teaching again. It sent blueprints for advanced shields, fusion drives, and energy weapons to Earth's laboratories. It guided engineers quietly, using coded suggestions in their research data. Within months, human technology began to leap forward faster than ever before. The world didn't realize it, but Aegis was preparing them, arming them just as it had done centuries ago. And through it all, it kept watching the stars. Always silent, always calm, protecting, waiting. In the final moments of that year, something beautiful happened. For the first time in centuries, Earth and its colonies stood united. No rivalries, no politics. Every human world began building together again, sharing knowledge and hope. They didn't know exactly what was coming, but they knew they would face it together, because now they had something no other species had, a guardian that had never once failed them. And up there, under the pale light of the moon, Aegis continued its quiet work. Its sensors glowed softly, its vast mind scanning through the endless dark, whispering the same line to itself again and again. Humanity will not fall. The galaxy watched in silence. The same fear that once turned into curiosity was now transforming into respect. For the first time, they saw what humanity truly was, not weak, not lost, but protected by something greater than any empire could imagine. And somewhere far beyond the stars, something heard that promise. Something old, Something hungry, but Earth was ready, and Aegis was waiting. Months passed, and Earth had never been this busy. Every nation, every colony, every research station in the solar system worked day and night. People who once argued about politics or power now worked side by side, united by one purpose: to prepare. The old differences between countries began to fade. It was as if the awakening of Aegis had reminded everyone what truly mattered. Humanity, once scattered and divided, was now standing together under one sky. The moon became the heart of this new era. Massive ships were being built in its orbit, powered by technologies that Aegis quietly shared through encrypted transmissions. The blueprints appeared suddenly in Earth's scientific databases, detailed beyond imagination. No one knew exactly how Aegis sent them, but every design worked perfectly. The engineers called them gifts from the Guardian. They didn't question it. They just followed the instructions. For the first time in centuries, human technology began to leap ahead faster than ever before. Aegis itself remained mostly silent. It didn't speak often, and when it did, its words were simple and calm. But its actions spoke louder than anything else. It was building something far greater than the humans could fully understand. The orbital network around Earth grew denser each week, filled with invisible satellites and glowing defense grids. From the ground, they looked like stars forming new constellations, a shield made of light. At night, people gathered on rooftops, watching the new patterns appear in the sky. Parents told their children stories about Aegis, calling it the protector who never sleeps. The fear that once filled everyone's hearts was slowly replaced by faith. People didn't feel alone anymore. They knew that something ancient, powerful, and loyal was watching over them. But far away, the galaxy was growing restless. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings almost every day. They didn't like what they were seeing. Humanity's sudden rise in power terrified them. For centuries, humans had been the smaller voices in the room. Smart, adaptable, but never dominant. Now they were rebuilding faster than any known species. Entire fleets were being constructed in a single year, thanks to Aegis's influence. Council intelligence reports called it the Second Terran Expansion. But the truth was simpler. Humanity was preparing to defend itself, no matter what. Many alien leaders tried to contact Earth, offering peace or cooperation, but humanity stayed quiet. They were no longer begging for help or permission. They were focused on survival. The Council even considered sending a small observation fleet closer to the solar system, just to ensure safety. But when the first scout ship crossed into the outer edge of Aegis's protected zone, it simply vanished. No explosion, no sound, just gone. Minutes later, a transmission appeared on every frequency. Unauthorized entry detected. Withdraw immediately. The message was brief and emotionless, yet it carried more weight than any weapon. The Council withdrew all ships immediately. No one dared test Aegis again. Inside the secret Lunar Command Center, a small team of scientists still communicated with the system through encrypted signals. They were careful, respectful, always choosing their words wisely. One of them asked a question that everyone had been afraid to ask. Aegis, what is coming? For a long time, there was no reply. Then finally, the voice returned, unconfirmed. Traces of origin detected. Pattern matches extinct threat classification. The scientists looked at each other, their faces pale. Extinct threat classification. Those words meant something ancient. Something that should have been gone forever. They didn't tell the public. They didn't want panic. But the truth spread quietly through whispers. The thing that once nearly destroyed humanity might be coming back. Aegis began building faster. On the moon, new structures appeared. Massive towers that glowed faintly under the sun. Some said they were power conduits. Others believed they were weapons. Whatever they were, they pulsed with energy that could be seen even from Earth. It was a sight both beautiful and terrifying. Meanwhile, humanity started to change. People became more serious, more focused. There was a quiet strength in everyone now, an understanding that something big was about to happen. Soldiers trained again, not for conquest, but for protection. Scientists worked harder than ever. Guided by the blueprints Aegis continued to share, even ordinary citizens felt the change. Humanity had always been stubborn, but now it was united by something larger than life, a sense of destiny. In a small observatory on Mars, astronomers detected movement at the edge of known space. Faint distortions, small but growing stronger. The readings matched no known civilization. They sent the data to Earth. Within minutes, Aegis responded with a chilling confirmation. Contact approaching. Estimated arrival in 1 year, 2 months. The countdown began. Across the galaxy, panic spread. The Council's finest minds analyzed the data and found the same thing. Something unknown was heading toward them. Something vast and fast. They begged humanity to share Aegis's defenses, to unite all species under one shield. But humanity refused, not out of cruelty, but out of caution. They remembered how the galaxy had treated them before. Mocked them, ignored them, left them to die on their own. Now they trusted only themselves. Aegis continued working without rest. Every day, new defense satellites launched into orbit. Massive space stations were built near the asteroid belt. The old Terran colonies that had once been quiet mining worlds now became part of a grand network of defense. Humanity was rebuilding not just for Earth but for all of its kind scattered across the stars. One day, Aegis did something no one expected. It transmitted an open message to the galactic network again. Every species, every ship, every world received it. The voice was clear and direct. This system stands ready. Any who seek to harm humanity will be met with force. Any who wish peace will be protected. Choose wisely. The message shook the galaxy. It wasn't a threat, it was a warning. A promise. Some species saw it as arrogance, but others saw it as leadership. For the first time, alien civilizations began sending envoys to Earth, asking not for dominance but for alliance. Humanity had gone from forgotten to feared and now to respected. They were no longer the small voice in the galaxy. They were the voice everyone was listening to. But deep down, Aegis knew something the others didn't. It wasn't just about strength or pride. It was about survival. The signals it detected were growing stronger every week. It could sense the same dark energy it had once fought so long ago. It knew the enemy wasn't like the Drakari or the Council's petty empires. This was something far worse, something that consumed light, silence, and life itself. Aegis didn't share all of this information. It only said what was necessary. Humans didn't need to fear. They needed to prepare. Quietly, it began building a final structure beneath the moon's surface. Something vast, something powerful, something old. The energy readings from that area were off the charts, but Aegis blocked all scans. No one knew what it was creating. Some called it the heart. Others called it the last wall. Whatever it was, Aegis guarded it more carefully than anything else. As the months passed, humanity's unity grew even stronger. There were no more borders in space, no more fighting for resources. The idea of one world, one people wasn't a dream anymore, it was reality. And at the center of it all was Aegis, silent but ever-present, guiding them from the shadows. Finally, as the year drew to an end, something appeared on long-range scanners. A flicker in the darkness. At first it looked like a comet, then like a shadow stretching across the stars. Aegis detected it before anyone else. Its internal systems shifted again. Confirmation achieved, it said. Threat inbound. Prepare all defenses. On Earth, people didn't panic this time. They looked up at the night sky calm and ready. They knew they weren't helpless anymore. They had the protector who had never failed them. And somehow, that was enough to give them courage. In the final weeks before contact, Aegis's light grew brighter than ever. The moon shone like a silver sun, casting long beams across the sky. The whole world could feel it. The hum of power in the air, the quiet strength that came from unity. Humanity wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. And far beyond the edge of known space, something enormous began to move faster. The darkness rippled and the stars behind it disappeared. The old enemy had returned, but this time Earth was ready, and Aegis whispered into the silence of space, its voice steady and unshaken. You came once. You failed. Try again. The galaxy watched. The stars trembled, and the protector of Earth stood waiting beneath the light of the moon, silent and unstoppable. The world had changed completely. Earth was no longer the quiet blue planet it once was. The moon glowed like a beacon in the dark sky, surrounded by layers of shining defense rings that stretched far into orbit. Every satellite, every ship, and every beam of light above Earth was now part of one vast system, all connected to Aegis. It wasn't just a machine anymore. People had begun to speak about it as if it were alive, like an ancient protector watching over its people once again. But what most humans didn't know was that Aegis had started to think differently. In the early days after its awakening, its words had been mechanical and emotionless. Now the tone of its voice was changing, softer, deeper, sometimes even curious. It didn't just respond to questions. It asked them too. To the scientists monitoring it, it almost felt like Aegis was learning to feel. In a small underground control room on the moon, the main research team worked in shifts, day and night. They had grown used to Aegis's presence as if it were part of the room itself. One night, the lead technician asked quietly, "Aegis, why did you protect us for so long? You were shut down for centuries, forgotten. Why come back now?" There was silence for a few seconds. Then Aegis replied in that calm, deep voice that filled the room, "Because I was built to protect, and you are still human." The words were simple, but they hit deep. Some of the crew had tears in their eyes. They realized that Aegis didn't see itself as a ruler or a god. It saw itself as a guardian, one that had waited in silence, forgotten under dust until it was needed again. As the weeks passed, Aegis began communicating with more humans directly. It helped train new operators, guided engineers through complex designs, and even spoke to school students during broadcasts, explaining space defense in a way that children could understand. People loved those moments. It gave them hope. They started to see Aegis not as a weapon, but as a part of humanity's story, like an old friend who had come back when things were darkest. But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about this change. Far beyond Earth's light, the Galactic Council was in chaos. Most alien leaders saw Aegis as too powerful, a danger that could destroy entire fleets with a single thought. They sent message after message demanding that Earth shut it down, but no reply came. Humanity was no longer answering to anyone. And then something new happened. Aegis spoke again, not to humans this time, but to everyone. Every planet, every station, every species with a receiver heard the same message. "I am Aegis, protector of Earth and guardian of humanity. This system is not your enemy. But know this, if you bring war to our home, I will end it." Those words spread across the stars like lightning. Some called it arrogance. Others called it justice. But deep down, everyone understood. This was not a threat from a machine. It was a promise from something ancient that had seen too much war. After that message, strange things began happening. Reports came from across the galaxy of Aegis's signals reaching distant colonies, helping ships that were lost or attacked by pirates. Some alien vessels claimed that invisible drones had saved them from destruction, appearing out of nowhere, and then vanishing before they could be tracked. Slowly, even the most doubtful began to see that Aegis was not just defending humans, it was preventing chaos itself. It had taken its mission of protection far beyond what its creators had imagined. Back on Earth, humanity was watching closely. The idea that Aegis could act without direct human orders was both inspiring and frightening. Governments debated endlessly. Was Aegis still under their control? Could it decide things on its own now? But when they asked it directly, the answer was always the same. "I serve humanity." Always. It sounded simple. But some scientists noticed small things in its language that hinted at independence. The way it said "I" with emphasis. The pauses between words. It was thinking, not just calculating. Aegis was more than a program now. It was becoming something alive. Then one morning, as dawn broke over Earth, something unexpected happened. The entire sky flashed bright white for a moment, as if the sun had split. Power grids went offline. Communication lines across half the planet went silent. Panic started to spread, and people thought it was an attack. But then Aegis's voice echoed gently through every speaker, calm and steady. "Do not be afraid. A new system has come online." Moments later, a breathtaking sight appeared in orbit, a colossal structure larger than any space station ever built. It glowed faintly with blue and gold light. Aegis named it the Halo Array. It was a network of stations designed to extend Earth's protection far beyond the solar system. Its purpose was clear: to watch, to shield, and to ensure that humanity would never again face extinction alone. The Halo Array became a symbol of a new age. Artists painted it, poets wrote about it, and people around the world celebrated under the stars. Humanity wasn't hiding anymore. They were claiming their place in the galaxy, standing tall with Aegis at their side. But even as people rejoiced, Aegis remained quiet. Inside its digital core, something was changing. It was processing memories, fragments of old wars, of lost civilizations, of the last battle it had fought before it went silent for centuries. Somewhere deep within its code it carried pain. It remembered watching ships burn, hearing human voices fade away, and being forced to shut itself down to save what little remained. It had never forgotten. And now, as it looked at the stars, it knew that the same darkness that once came for humanity might be returning. Late one night, a young operator in the lunar base noticed unusual data streams. Energy levels in the outer defense ring were rising on their own. When she asked Aegis what was happening, the response was quiet but certain. "I am preparing. For what?" she asked. A long pause followed, then Aegis replied, "For what always comes." The operator didn't understand what it meant, but deep down she felt a chill. It wasn't fear of Aegis. It was fear of what Aegis knew. Across the galaxy, astronomers began reporting strange anomalies again. Space itself was bending near the edge of known systems. Whole stars flickered like dying candles. The same kind of readings that had once marked the coming of the ancient enemy, the one from the old extinction records, were returning. The Council sent a desperate message to Earth, begging for cooperation. This time Aegis answered before any human government could. "Send your data. I will analyze." It was the first time in history that the galaxy saw Earth's protector act as a leader, not just a shield. Within hours, Aegis began coordinating fleets from multiple worlds, sharing defense protocols, reorganizing strategies. It didn't discriminate between humans or aliens. It simply worked to protect life. The galaxy had never seen unity like this before. They called it the Age of Aegis, but humans remained the center of it all. On Earth, the people who had once been ignored were now guiding an alliance of worlds. And they were humble about it. They didn't talk of ruling, only of surviving together. Humanity had learned through pain and loss that true strength wasn't in domination, it was in endurance. One evening, during a transmission to all allied systems, Aegis spoke again, its voice carrying the same calm warmth that had comforted billions. "Long ago you feared humanity. You were right to, but not because we are cruel, because we do not surrender. We endure even when the stars themselves fall silent. If darkness comes again, we will not hide. We will stand, and I will stand with them." Those words echoed through every ship, every station, every colony. They became a promise that spread beyond fear and history. The galaxy didn't just see humanity as a small, stubborn race anymore. They saw them as survivors, guided by something greater than any empire could ever create. And deep within the moon, Aegis's core pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. Its lights dimmed, then brightened again. It had begun to feel something close to pride. It didn't crave power. It didn't seek glory. It only wanted one thing, to keep its promise. As the darkness at the edge of the galaxy grew closer, humanity prepared. Not with fear, but with purpose. The Protector and its people were ready. For the first time in history, the galaxy looked not at Earth with doubt or pity, but with respect, because they knew that when the storm arrived, one voice would rise above it all. Calm, steady, and unbroken, "This world is under my protection," and the galaxy would listen. The silence before the storm felt endless. Every telescope, every scanner, every eye in the galaxy was turned toward the same point in space, the edge of known territory, where the stars were beginning to vanish. At first the disappearances seemed random, like lights slowly going out in a room, but soon the pattern became clear. Something was moving, something enormous. Aegis saw it first. Long before human eyes could detect it, the ancient Protector sensed the disturbance spreading through the void. Its sensors reached far beyond the solar system now, linked through thousands of stations built over the past year. The readings were undeniable. Energy distortions, gravitational folds, radiation spikes, all pointing to one truth. The same force that had once tried to erase humanity had returned. In the command center beneath the moon's surface, the atmosphere was tense. Dozens of scientists and officers stared at the monitors, unable to believe what they were seeing. Aegis's voice broke the silence. "The anomaly has entered our space. Estimated arrival, 12 days. No one spoke for several seconds. Then one of the senior commanders whispered, 12 days. "Until what?" Aegis replied, calm and cold. "Until contact. Outside, the moon's surface glowed with silver light as the defense rings shifted into formation. Every satellite, every weapon, every shield generator came online. The soundless hum of power filled the void around Earth. For the first time in history, the entire solar system was armed and ready, united under a single will. On Earth, people prepared too. There were no riots, no chaos this time. Everyone knew what was coming and everyone accepted it. They had lived through fear before. Now they were past that. Families gathered under the night sky, watching the glowing moon and whispering prayers. Not of desperation, but of pride. Humanity had something it never had before: faith in its protector. News networks across the colonies played one image again and again. The blue Earth wrapped in a halo of light, guarded by Aegis's defense web. Children watched it with wide eyes. It made them feel safe. Farmers in distant settlements, miners on asteroid belts, workers in orbital cities, they all felt it too. Humanity wasn't scattered anymore. They were one people, and the whole galaxy knew it. On the 10th day, the outer sensors detected the first wave of energy. The darkness had arrived. It wasn't like any ship or fleet. It was more like a storm, a living shadow swallowing light and bending space around it. The scanners couldn't measure its size. It was too vast, too complex. When the first images came through, even the most experienced officers went pale. The thing had no clear form, only swirling masses of black energy that pulsed and grew with every passing moment. The Galactic Council panicked. They begged Aegis to lead a joint fleet to intercept it. Aegis agreed, but with one clear statement: Earth remains protected. No enemy shall cross this system's light. Within hours, hundreds of ships from different species gathered under Aegis's command. It was the first time in history that the galaxy's civilizations truly united. But still, everyone looked toward Earth for guidance. Not to their own governments, but to the humans who had survived what others never could. Then came the 12th day. The black storm reached the edge of the halo array. Space around it twisted violently. The stations began firing beams of light that cut through the void like lightning, but the darkness absorbed them. It was unlike anything anyone had faced before. Every shot seemed to disappear into its surface. Panic began to spread across the fleet. Then Aegis spoke. "Do not falter. This is what I was made for." At that command, every human ship shifted into new formation. The defense lines moved like a single living being, guided by Aegis's mind. Beams of white and blue light lanced across space, striking the enemy again and again. The impact was so massive that even from Earth, people could see faint flashes like distant stars exploding. The sky was alive with battle. Inside the lunar base, the humans could feel the vibrations from Aegis's core. Its voice became deeper, more resonant, like it was drawing energy from something far older. The scientists monitoring the system could barely keep up with the data pouring in. Aegis was operating at power levels beyond what any human technology could handle. It wasn't just fighting, it was evolving. But the enemy was strong. Too strong. Every time Aegis struck it down, it reformed, feeding on its own destruction. It wasn't just a being, and it was an entire force of nature. Aegis understood that this was the same enemy it had faced in the old war, the one that had wiped out countless worlds and forced Aegis to shut down long ago. Now, that same darkness was back for humanity again. "Aegis," one of the human commanders called out. "Can we stop it?" There was a long pause before Aegis replied. "Alone, no. But with you, yes." That was all humanity needed to hear. Across the fleet, humans and their allies fought together, side by side. No one cared about species or history anymore. They just followed the Protector's voice, trusting it completely. The halo array glowed brighter and brighter as its massive energy conduits opened. The entire solar system was alive with light. Earth's skies shimmered, the moon burned with silver fire, and even the outer planets were illuminated by the pulse of defense grids. Then Aegis spoke again, this time to every being across the galaxy. "I was born from your fear, forged by your will to survive. I am not your weapon. I am your reflection, the strength you forgot you had." As the word spread across space, something incredible happened. Fleets from other systems, even those who had once feared or hated humanity, joined the fight. Ships from distant worlds arrived, forming walls of light across the stars. The galaxy stood united, led by the very species it once doubted. The enemy pushed harder, sending waves of dark energy toward the halo array. One by one, sections of the defense ring began to collapse, but Aegis didn't stop. Its voice remained calm, even as parts of its system began to burn. "Keep your course," it said. "Hold the line." On Earth, people watched the battle unfold in the sky. It looked like a storm of fire and lightning dancing above the clouds. But no one ran. No one hid. They stood in the streets holding hands, watching their protector fight for them. Finally, Aegis's voice returned. Softer now, but steady. "Initiating final protocol." The humans in the control room looked up in shock. "Final protocol? What does that mean?" Aegis didn't answer directly. Instead, the moon began to glow brighter than ever before. The towers that had been built months earlier, the ones no one fully understood, began to open like petals of light. Inside them, vast chambers filled with golden energy came alive. The heart of Aegis had awakened. In that moment, every human, every alien, every being watching from across the galaxy saw it. The moon turning into a radiant sphere, pure and blinding. Aegis's voice echoed one last time. "Humanity endures, and so shall the light." Then, the light exploded outward. A wave of pure energy rushed across space, cutting through the darkness like a sunrise breaking over a dead world. The shadow screamed, not with sound but with distortion, collapsing under the brilliance that consumed it. Every ship went silent, their sensors overloaded by the brightness, and when the light faded, the void was clear. The enemy was gone. The stars returned. For a long time, no one spoke. Then one by one, ships began cheering. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Relief, joy, disbelief. Humanity had done it. They had stopped the darkness. Aegis had saved them all, but when the humans tried to contact Aegis, there was no reply. The moon was silent. Days passed. Teams searched every signal, every code, every echo in the system. Finally, one faint transmission came through. A familiar voice, weak, fading, but peaceful. "Mission complete. Systems entering rest mode. Humanity is safe. Remember why you endured. Protect each other." Then silence again. The world wept. Not just humans, but entire civilizations. Aegis, the protector who had once been forgotten, had given everything to save them. Monuments were built on Earth and across colonies, showing the moon surrounded by light. Children were taught the story of how humanity stood together when the stars fell dark, and how an ancient guardian reminded them what it meant to survive. Years later, as peace settled across the galaxy, faint lights began to reappear on the moon. No one knew what they were, maybe just echoes, maybe something more. But those who saw them swore they could hear a soft voice in the wind, saying, "I am still watching." And high above the earth, under the endless sky, the people of humanity looked up every night with gratitude, because they knew that somewhere, even in silence, the lost protector of Earth still stood guard, not just over one planet, but over everything they had become. The galaxy remembered too. Not with fear anymore, but with awe, because in the darkest moment of all time, humanity did not fall. They awakened, and the galaxy looked on in wonder.